expressed in this show belong to the person expressing them. They do not purport to reflect the opinions or views of Rancher or any other entity.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to today's episode of Coffee and Cloud Native. My name is Guy Who Hits the Wrong Button. Let's try that again. My name is Adrian Goins, and I'm delighted to be here with you today. The purpose of this show is to share with you news and interesting content related to Kubernetes and Cloud Native, and to build a community of people who are interested in using technology to live a better life. I'm going to pause right there. There was a comment from somebody watching one of the videos on YouTube who said, "What? Nothing about Kubernetes? I'm going to unsubscribe." First of all, in that particular video, there were actually 3 things about Kubernetes, which I provided him links for. But then I also explained that the world is about more than Kubernetes. Like, Kubernetes at this point is practically a commodity. I know a lot of you are just getting started, and I know that those of us who are in it still have lots of stuff to learn. But as we were just talking about in Discord, change happens. Change happens so rapidly right now that we need to be aware of what's going on outside. So this show is a place for me to share with you things that I think are interesting about technology within the areas of Kubernetes, cloud native, IoT, AIoT, automation, electric vehicles, smart cities, any of that stuff that relates to what's happening and where technology is going. And if you don't like it and you want to unsubscribe, then that's totally cool, because like, whatever. So yeah, that's what this is about. This is a place to build a community of people who are interested in using technology to live a better life. If you're watching live, consider following or subscribing to the channel. And if you're watching a replay, give the video a thumbs up so the YouTube algorithm shares it with other people who want to watch more than Kubernetes stuff. And in fact, it's actually good that I have more content than Kubernetes, because if it was just a show about Kubernetes, like honestly, most of the stuff that the bots pick up is like, how to do observability with this, how to do observability with that, how to do observability with this other thing, how to install Kubernetes. In fact, yesterday I bounced an article that the bot picked up that was a guy who literally, I kid you not, he was like, for about 3 years, I've been thinking about learning Kubernetes, and I started to learn it last week, and I'm now going to teach you about it. And I'm like, really? Ow, get out the window. So this is a much more rounded show, especially if you've been watching it for like, we're on episode 84 today. So if you've been watching it, you see that it's an evolving show, and it's going to continue to evolve. Join the free community site where we talk about all of this stuff. And there's also a Discord server, and I'll fire up those links. Live chat happens in Discord with a bot that relays, and sometimes it works, and so on and so forth. Let's just hop over to Discord really quick and say hi to the people who are able to join us live. So we got Ian, Clint, good morning. Nuno, Captain Corsair, talking about Swarm. Man, okay, yeah, Swarm. We talk about Swarm sometimes too. Whitebot says there's always a difficult person in the audience. I don't think this guy was being difficult. Like, I didn't take offense at it. This is a show for the people who care about what it's about. Period. The end. Chrysalis recommends Venn diagrams. Yes. I was going to actually try and do that with my hands, but it'll look like a dirty gesture, so I'm not going to do it. So good morning, Restreambot. Hey, Juan Pablo. ¿Quieres el contenido en español? Posible. Pero tenemos problemas con otras personas who don't speak Spanish. So continuing to say hello to people. Stephen K, I think I said Ian, Captain Justin, Trufflebot, Clint, James remembers the Who Moved My Cheese book. I was telling a story about a data center that we were talking about change. So back in the .com days, like around 2000, late 2000, this data center that I knew bought a book for all of their employees called Who Moved My Cheese, which was about, I know that all of you who are in the live chat already saw this, but I'm telling it for everybody else who's watching. So it was about a mouse in a maze who got mad whenever the cheese moved, and there was another mouse who didn't care. He just went and looked for the new cheese. And it was about how change is actually good and we should embrace change. And like a week later, they fired everybody. Change, bad PR. Wojtek, cześć. OFS, good morning, old man with a hat. Lovely to see you. All right, I know there's more of you, but I want to get started because there's a bunch of stuff today, some of which has something to do with Kubernetes. But first of all, What day is today? Can't get that transition happening fast enough. Today is the brain dump. I am giving away the complete traefik training course again to somebody, and we're going to do the giveaway a little bit differently this month, where I'm going to keep the poll running, and so if people vote for other stuff, I'll try to give that away in subsequent weeks. So join the community site and vote if you want to win something else. Otherwise, we'll just keep giving away what people want. This is a great course from Brian Christner, endorsed by Traefik Labs, so this is what we're giving away. Now, the rules for the giveaway are: if we get 50 people watching live between YouTube and Twitch, I give a Udemy course away to someone in the live chat channel on Discord. If you want to enter, it's easy. Join the Discord server, links are on the bottom of the screen, and then join the live chat channel. When WifeBot says we've hit 50 people, I'll start the giveaway. She'll pin the message, click the little ta-da icon under the giveaway to enter, and then Ellie will announce a winner near the end of the show. May the odds be ever in your favor. Are you looking for something to do this weekend? Right? Because, we're all spending all of this time indoors. It's policy month here on CNCN. So check out the weekly challenge in the community site and go build yourself some policy goodness with Kyverno or OPA, and then come back and share with us what you've done. And in fact, Shipwreck posted something yesterday. Shipwreck is amazing. Shipwreck will take anything and push it not just to the limits of what it can do, but if knowledge can overflow a buffer into something else, that's what he's gonna make it do. So he posted a comment yesterday that said, "I'm convinced you can recreate the board game Mastermind using Kyverno. So far I have the policy engine in place, but I wanna increment the turn and create a tracker for consecutive games. And if he's successful, he'll create a post." This is not unusual for him. So I'm excited to see if he can come up with something for this, but don't think you have to match this. I'll be totally happy if I can just deploy a policy that prevents me from continuing with some of the bad lazy practices that I have for stuff. Let's get started with those transitions, man. My Stream Deck's running a little slow today. Not tool of the day. Tool of the day comes at the end. Make sure you stay to the end. The tool of the day is ridiculous. Ridiculous. I was sitting at my desk last night and I came across the tool of the day and I just started talking to myself. I was like, oh my gosh, this is so amazing. Out loud for 10 minutes. I had to tell Lisa to just ignore me because I wasn't talking to her. I was just so excited. I had to talk to somebody. So I was talking to myself because there's only two of us. Yeah, she's telling you in the live chat, I was freaking out. I'm still gonna be freaking out. Let's move on to the actual content though, and we'll freak out more about that other stuff later. Trufflebot, what do you got for us? Hot topic this week, not the goth store, but, oh no, Docker deprecation in Kubernetes 1.20, bah! Everybody's talking about it. And DBA from the cold was like, yeah, okay, so you know what? Let's see what you actually have to do if you're running Docker and you want to move to Containerd. He caveats this by saying, don't do this in production. You would never do this in a production cluster. You would actually just rid the existing nodes because it's the container engine. So you would bring up new nodes, new worker nodes with a different engine, and then roll those into your cluster and then roll the other ones out because it's Kubernetes and you can do great stuff like that. But on his Raspberry Pi Kubernetes cluster, he wanted to actually change the wheels while the train was rolling down the track. He actually took a page from Shipwreck's book and compiled Containerd from source because the apt module, the apt package wasn't working for some reason. He didn't feel like spending time with that. So if you want to go nuts, this actually shows you how to compile it. But outside of that, if you just take the compile piece and have it be get you some Containerd, he shows how cordon the node, drain the node, stop the kubelet, stop Docker, unpin, repin, do some other stuff, restart it, roll it back in, and then roll that across the rest of your worker nodes. And it worked fine. So there you go. If after you're done building policies this weekend, if you have a Raspberry Pi Kubernetes cluster, go take that for a spin. Thank you very much, DBA from the cold. Hey, look, it's an article about observability. Like, I'm not kidding. I reject so many articles every night because the machine learning model doesn't understand the context from show to show. So it knows that articles about Kubernetes and about Grafana and about Prometheus and about all of these things are good. So it recommends them. I know that we've been talking about it way too much. And right now with reInvent, there's just all of this noise and stuff. So I bounce it. I put this on the show because it's traefik and we're giving away the traefik course today. And I love traefik. The article is actually a little bit light. When I read it this morning, because I read all of these in detail, literally, like I get up, I make my first cup of coffee, I sit down, I read all of the content that might make it on the show, and so that I'm prepared right before the show to talk about it. Sometimes I find a piece of content that isn't as good as I thought it was going to be, and I bounce it, and then I put something else in its place. I kept this because it's an article about observability, talking about how because ingress controllers are just Kubernetes resources, like you can get data from them. I don't know what just beeped at me. Oh, somebody wants to join the community. Lifebot will let you in just a moment. So you can get data out of them, then you can export that to whatever and do stuff with it. And then, of course, because it's traefik, they show you the metrics that are available in traefik and in the traefik dashboard. I'm not sure where these ELB metrics are coming from. I don't know if that's from traefik or if that's from something else, but cool. And so metrics are available in traefik Enterprise, or if you are using the open source version of traefik, you can use traefik pilot. And in fact, it takes you to pilot.traefik.io, but let me jump back out to traefik. And products, where's pilot? Pilot. So traefik Pilot is a monitoring and management platform for traefik. So you can plug your existing community versions of traefik into that and then start managing traefik instances and doing stuff. The traefik Pilot, traefik metrics are good. Hooray, Kubernetes observability. Traefik watches the show. Hello. All right. DNS in Kubernetes is a subject that is near and dear to my heart because when it goes south, like really far south. Like it goes to Antarctica south. I was having a conversation about DNS issues where, I was playing with Fleet and it couldn't pull from GitHub. It was like github.com, that doesn't exist. And usually these are musl-related Alpine container ndots Kubernetes issues that everybody runs into. Basically, if you have an Alpine container image and more than a certain number of search domains, it never actually tries the FQDN, the fully qualified domain name. So it'll try like github.com.svc.cluster.local, github.com.something else.svc.cluster.local, github.com.local, it tries all of the search domains before it ever gets to github.com. And most DNS issues in Kubernetes can be traced to that, to problems with core DNS that are pretty obscure, or there's just something wrong with DNS in your environment. You can recognize resolution failures because you will get this EAI again error. So I see that sometimes in Node-RED, which I run under Kubernetes, and it means I can't resolve this. Now for me, because I'm special, my DNS provider doesn't actually, my backup internet provider doesn't allow me to query arbitrary DNS servers. I can only query their servers so that they can inject ads and do NX domains and all that other stuff. So I run DNS over HTTPS with NextDNS. If you don't know NextDNS, nextdns.io, check them out. It's like Pi-hole as a service, but they've got VPN clients for your phone. So basically when I'm out of my house, I automatically route all of my connections for DNS queries to them, even on my cellular provider network. They're cool. They have a really generous free tier. So back over here, he was having DNS lookup failures. And when I first saw this article, I was like, oh, it's the musl+ndots thing, but it wasn't. They looked at that, that wasn't it. And the article continues. I'm not going to go through all of it, but it continues with a really good methodical process for troubleshooting DNS failures within Kubernetes. What they ended up figuring out was, so there were some caching issues. They started observing the latency on DNS requests and the communication issues between some of their microservices, and so on and so forth. So they started graphing things because, hey, observability. And eventually figured out where the problem was. And then they had some choices about how to fix it. They could fix it by like patching kernel components or upgrading the kernel on all of their systems, or they could just deploy something that I know at least one of you has deployed after talking with me, which is called the node local DNS cache. If you have anything, you should just basically run this in Kubernetes, period. It should be a stock part of your installation. It runs a DNS caching server on every single worker node in your cluster, which reduces the load on core DNS, which also reduces the load on your upstream DNS provider, which just makes things work better. So there you go, node local DNS cache. The rest of the article is great. Bookmark it, and when, not if, but when you have troubles with Kubernetes and DNS, it'll give you some good steps to follow. What do we got next? How many people we got? What are we at? Oh, we're at 47. Oh, Matt can't join. Mac usually counts for 2 because he watches on Twitch and on YouTube. All right. So what's next then? This one's also very interesting. Hey, who was watching the show the other day where I was talking about how I wished I could highlight content and refer back to it? Yeah, so it occurred to me this morning that there's probably a plugin for that, and there was, so I installed it. And now when I'm reading articles, I don't have to scroll and look for the things I want to talk about. Kubernetes watches. Recently, I ran into a situation, I'm reading now, where I needed to maintain a list of endpoints, specifically the IP addresses of a Kubernetes service. Because the service was backed by a deployment, the list of endpoints was updated regularly and unpredictably. Shows, all right, we're at 50. One moment, please. I will now kick off the giveaway. We're gonna do this for 10 minutes. Oops. 10 minutes. I almost did it for 1 minute with 10 winners. No. 10 minutes. All right. So it's gonna end right at the top of the hour. Woohoo! Nothing like last minute loveliness on a Friday. I don't even know what that means. So back over here. You could like monitor the thing and like curl it all the time and whatnot, but so this is ugly. There's a watch URL. So who knew that to enable clients to build a model of the current state of a cluster, all Kubernetes object resource types are required to support consistent lists and an incremental change notification feed called a watch. This allows a client to fetch the current state and then watch for changes without missing any updates. Neat. So now you can run a curl request against the watch endpoint and with a resource version, and it will auto update. It's a streaming feed, so it will auto update when changes happen. Now, the article continues to talk about how there are some limitations in this, and to get around the limitations, he actually created, scroll. There we go. He actually created a small Go program that uses the Go Kubernetes library to actually monitor that endpoint and then just output data that he cares about in a relevant format. So here you go, Kubernetes watches, an introduction to those and how to make them useful. I'm guessing the people who voted that 3, the person who voted that 3 is somebody who's only here for the IoT content. AWS Chalice. This makes me think of King Arthur, right? Or the Holy Grail, or Monty Python and the Holy Grail, which is probably better. Chalice. I got really excited about this, and then I got a little bit disappointed, but I'm going to share it anyway. Chalice automatically, well, it's a framework for writing serverless applications. I do some stuff with serverless, and a lot of time is absolutely spent figuring out how to make the serverless thing do what I need it to do outside of what my actual function needs to do. So Chalice is a framework that gets around all of that stuff. But you know how I can get around it? Because it's from Amazon and it only works with Lambda. So Chalice is actually a framework for getting you to use more Lambda. And that's fine. That's totally fine. I don't use Lambda. I run all of my stuff locally, but like hundreds of thousands and millions and trillions and billions of other people, trillions and billions, there you go, of other people do use Lambda. I know we have people in the community who use Lambda and probably struggle with the same kind of stuff where it's like, oh, I got to write another function. I got to do all this like scaffolding nonsense. So Chalice is designed to get you up and running immediately. Integrates with Terraform, SAM, CI/CD pipeline stuff, local testing, WebSocket APIs, and other delicious greatness. The content fire hose slowed down a little bit last night with reInvent stuff. I think people are getting tired, but not completely. Last week we had, what were they called? Landing zones or something? I didn't highlight this one because I was reviewing it before I found that plugin. Landing zones. Yeah, there they are. So landing zones are like ways to provision infrastructure according to best practices. And Control Tower is a way to actually configure accounts. So people, basically, as the other one is for infrastructure. So this sets up accounts, teams, cloud setup, governance, and implements best practices for stuff. So you can just go click, 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 and you get a whole infrastructure of things. And they actually enforce, like they won't let you do bad stuff. So they enforce things that you need that conveniently also use more AWS services, but that's okay too. Because, what's the alternative? Don't use the services and then get owned, maybe. So if you do a lot of work with AWS, especially if you're provisioning accounts, if you work in an ops department for an organization or an MSP for clients or whatever, Control Tower exists to help make your life better. Do we have time for one more before we get to tool of the day? We probably don't, but I did it anyway. Whoops, I didn't vote. Hey, more AWS. Okay, really quick. And then we're going to do tool of the day. And then the last thing we're going to do is we're going to find out who won. AWS Step Functions. Lambda serverless stuff is starting to get a little bit ridiculous. People are now wanting to run long-running code in Lambda. And in fact, another article that didn't make it on the show was about how you can now provision Lambda functions that use up to 10 gigabytes of memory and have 6 vCPUs. And I'm like, what? That's not a function. But it could be. Well, this AWS Step Functions enable you to, did I highlight that? So it takes, when you have a function or workflow that takes more computing capability than what Lambda can offer, you can offload that to something else, a container, a whatever. And so it's like it steps out and then it comes back. You can actually make it spin up an EKS cluster, which is ridiculous. Like if you need to spin up an EKS cluster to run your function, okay, whatever, then that's what you need to do. The nice thing is that step functions are not billed for time. So it doesn't actually, EKS takes forever to spin up, but you're not billed for that. So that's kind of neat. And if you already have an EKS cluster, you can actually run the step functions inside of your EKS cluster, which shortens that other ugly workflow diagram to something that looks like that. You can also integrate these directly with the ACK, so you can have your Kubernetes cluster spin up functions that come back and use. It's like all Inception-y and stuff like that. But it looks like it's very cool. And if you need it, you're probably really excited that it exists. If you are like me and are like, what? Then you don't need it. And that's still fine. All right, we're gonna have to go to the tool of the day because I probably should have left 10 minutes for it. Today's show had an average rating of 4 coffees. That's an excellent show. And now, Buckle up, buckaroos. Holy cow. I'm just going to play this little video, which I know you kind of can't really see, but on the left you have this. Kui? Kui? K-U-I? Kui. We're going to call it Kui. And on the right, you have somebody trying to do the same thing with kubectl. Basically, with Kui, it shows you intelligent objects in response to your Kubernetes kubectl command line questions, and then presents you, I'm going to give you a live demo of this in a second. It presents you with, oh, I'm going to sneeze. Okay. I think I got past that. It presents you with, it's just, I'm just going to show it to you because I can't talk. Okay, so this looks pretty blank right now. This actually can also function as a kubectl plugin. I am connected. You can see, I'm going to turn off that news thing. You can see down here in the bottom, it knows about all of my contexts. So I can click that and it shows me I'm connected to the home cluster, and then here's my other clusters that I could connect to if I wanted to. Within that, there's also, I can click and it'll show me namespaces. Dots. I don't know why this is taking so long. So here are all of the various namespaces that are in this cluster. Now, if I say, kubectl, or actually it understands the get pods, then now it shows me the pods. And I can select one of these. Let's pick something like, mosquito. So I just click on it, and now it shows me all of the information about that thing. So a summary, what it is. I can get live streaming of the events. There hasn't been anything. I can get live streaming of the logs. Ignore all those alias things. It actually appears to take all of my local aliases and assign them in the container. But because I use fish and the containers don't, then I get a weird error. So you got that. I can terminal directly, or get a shell directly on it. Straight from there. I can talk to the YAML of it. Sorry, this isn't like bigger. And I can edit it. I can jump out to the node. This is like K9s on crack. So we get to the YAML. We can edit things. We can delete that. Let's not do that. This is like a fraction of a piece of a hair of what it can do. I'm going to jump up here to the menu that you can't see, and it has this thing called a notebook. So if I open up a notebook, oh, it claims it created a new tab, and it's lying to me. It didn't. Oh man, how can I show you the notebooks? Give me a new window. Hang on, I know you can't see the window. Just a second. Notebooks, welcome to Kui. Okay. I'm going to switch this out to a different one. Give me a second to control the streaming software. Streaming software, capture the other Kui window. There we go. Okay, this is a notebook. So this it's designed for kube control, but I mean it's a shell. So you can just use this as a straight up terminal, even though it has Kubernetes support in it. Which means these notebooks allow you to record all of your session and then annotate it and release it as kind of like a mini kata. They can't click on stuff and do things, but they can click on stuff and generate the same YAML. So this is like the welcome to Kui, and it shows how you can use it. You can use it as a kubectl plugin. It talks about notebooks. It gives you a sample of some notebooks down here. Let's open the Kubernetes notebook. And I'm also sorry that I can't zoom this in because I can't. So if you see on the left here, it looks very much like kata. So here's how to create a namespace, and then here's how to launch a deployment. And you can drop these things down and it shows you all of the output from that. And then over here, here's how to inspect resources. I'm going to use this for my trainings, or at least I'll try to, for my trainings where people have to follow along. Oh, did we get a winner? Where people have to follow along. And rather than like trying to copy paste, they can literally like just run this and point it at a Kubernetes cluster. I discovered this late last night, so I haven't really put it through its paces. It is from IBM. Let me jump back over here. Let me go to their browser. It's from IBM, not their browser, their repo. It's on version 9. Version 9. So it's like ultra stable. I've never heard of this. And everybody that I showed it to last night, all 2 of them, had also never heard of it. And I'm curious if anybody else has ever heard of it. Because like, where did this come from? Aliens? Parallel universe? So there you go. That's the tool of the day. We're like a minute over. Let's go back and see. Everybody else already knows who won. That's interesting. I don't actually have to do anything. I just have to go back and see who it is. Yeah, people liked that. Live chat, pinned post, who won? Brendan Rooney? Brendan. Oh my God, scroll. Hey, awesome, congratulations. You, my friend, have won a complete traefik training course. So I'll get together with you after the show. You tell me where you want to send it or if you want to send it to somebody else. I should just end the show like that. Okay, well, yeah, so that's it. Sad. Thank you so much for tuning in. Links to everything I talk about go up in the free community side at community.cncn.io after the show ends. Going across the bottom of the screen. Come join us. Community members get early access to the links, the video replay, 24 hours of ad-free content, and other exclusive stuff. It's free to join, and it's growing every day. In fact, I saw a bunch of people join during the show. Thank you. If you have something you'd like me to consider for the show, post it in the community site, mention me in the post, or ping me on Discord or Twitter. Yeah, so we got to run. Have a great day, everyone. Keep learning, and I will see you in the next show. Stay caffeinated.